morning? Are you ready to unite?
Yes.
Are you ready to resist?
Yes.
And are you ready to enlist?
Yes.
If we are going to change our country for the better, we need to do it in a united fashion. That means unite the LGBT community, but also work with coalition partners. If we are to change this country for the better, we need to resist now against this administration and against what's happening at state and local level also. And if we are going to change this country, we need to enlist many, many more people to join our efforts, and that's where you all come in to support us. So we are going to unite, we are going to resist, and we are going to enlist. I want to thank you so much for being here today at the first of 4 of HRC's Summer of Action Activist Trainings. My name is Marty Rouse. I'm the National Field Director for the Human Rights Campaign. I use pronouns of he, him, and his. And we are just so grateful to have you here with us this morning. You should know that the videographer is here so that we will be taping this for Facebook Live later today. We have 2 very special guests with us this morning to welcome us and say hello to everybody here in Washington. So please give a wonderful Saturday Pride welcome to the HRC's President, Chad Griffin.
Thank you so much, Marty. You can tell Marty has had more cups of coffee this morning than I have with all of that energy. I just want to thank Marty and all of the HRC team that is in the room for pulling off this event. This is the first of a number of trainings that are going to go through today and through the weekend. So the HRC team, raise your hands. Thank you all, team HRC. I just want to be brief before we turn it over to the congressman. But first and foremost, I think it's important for all of us to just sort of pause and realize and recognize the history of our own movement. You know, this is the beginning and the kickoff of Pride Weekend. But why does Pride exist? Where did it come from? In many ways, the answer to that question is what we're doing today. Pride was born out of resistance. A number of really brave folks in places like New York City, in the Greenwich Village at the STONEWALL Inn, or at the Black Cat in Los Angeles, or the Compton cafeteria riots. Brave, bold trailblazers who came before all of us, from shoulders we all stand on. They said enough is enough. They stood up to fight the oppression, to fight the discrimination. And they said, we're taking to the streets and we're making our voices heard. They organized, they mobilized, and they birthed the modern movement that we have today. Now, over these last 8 years or so, we had partners in the White House. We had partners in government that were committed to moving not just the LGBTQ community forward, but to moving all minority communities forward, to making this country that more perfect union. President Obama and his entire administration made that commitment. But what has this president done since day 1 in the Oval Office? He has attacked LGBT people every single day. He's also attacked, well, virtually every American every single day. And as if it weren't enough that the first action of the Department of Education was to attack transgender young people. Imagine that. The President of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, the Secretary of Education, chooses to go after the most vulnerable in our society. But just look across the board. You know, as Donald Trump waved the rainbow flag during the campaign, claimed that he was an ally of our community. But I think he just doesn't understand who LGBTQ people actually are. Because we are women, we are people of color, we are Muslims, we are people with disabilities, we are the asylum seekers, some of whom are risking death in their countries because this country won't acknowledge the importance and significance of human rights and grant asylum to those fleeing persecution in places like Chechnya and elsewhere. That's who we are as a community. We're as diverse as the fabric of this nation. And we have sent loud and clear a message that if you come for any one of us, you've come for all of us. And if you come for any one of us, we're going to organize, we're going to mobilize, and we're going to come for you on election day. And there are two examples that our resistance is already working. First, I want to give you an example prior to the election. There was a governor, in the state of North Carolina. That governor thought it would be in his political interest to attack our community, and especially to attack transgender people. And he thought it would ensure his own re-election. But when he did that, our community stood up in coalition, in partnership, and we said, no, you're not getting away with this. You're either going to repeal HB 2, or we're going to make damn sure that our community and our allies organize on an election day. We're going to make certain that you become unemployed and a former governor. Well, today, Pat McCrory is still looking for work. That is because of all of you and people like you, not just in North Carolina, but around this country. The last thing I want to mention is, this president went around the country, including the choice of his own vice president, and truly picked the most hateful, anti-LGBT people around this country, those leading the charge against us. He plucked them off the battlefield, and he put them in charge of our government. And so this organization and our millions of folks all around this country have stood up and have resisted and have organized and have called on our members of Congress, our senators, to stand up, show courage, and defeat some of these folks. And one of those nominees, his nominee to be Secretary of the Army, to replace Eric Fanning, the first openly LGBTQ leader of our armed services, he chose one of the most hateful anti-LGBT people in the country, someone that we all knew well at this organization because he led the charge in the state of Tennessee in the state legislature, attacking our community and again, attacking transgender people. So when Trump nominated Mark Green to be the Secretary of the Army, you rose up, you organized. We formed partnerships and coalitions in states all across this country. And we made certain that our representatives heard from all of us. And in the end, he had to withdraw that nomination because it was clear that there was no way that Mark Green was going to be confirmed. Again, sending a message that if you come for us, we're going to come for you. It's the end of political benefit and political gain by attacking our community. And you are key and you're central to that. This is Pride Weekend. You're here in this training, but this is just the beginning. The most important thing that we all do is what we do tomorrow, and what we do the next day, and what we do the day after, until we have brought sanity and equality back to this country. So thank you all for playing the role that you play. I'm honored to be here with you today. Enjoy this training and have some fun this weekend too. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Brad. Our next special guest took the time out of his really busy schedule to come visit us today. We do have allies in Congress, and we're so honored to have with us Congressman Darren Soto, who represents Orlando.
Thank you so much, Howard. Thank you, First and foremost, I want to welcome you all to our nation's capital. Some of you may live here, some of you may have come from all over the country. This is your capital, and we need to continue to make sure that Congress understands that. You know, it's also an honor to celebrate LGBT History Month this month, and I was proud to work with some of my constituents yesterday to sprawl out the rainbow flag all across the stairs of the Capitol yesterday, and just to show that we are here and that we will fight. You know, we've had some major successes. We all know that, whether it be marriage equality in the Supreme Court, whether it be parental rights, particularly in the state of Florida, where we had a lot of challenges, and we still do, or whether it be service in the military, with being able to be who you are and not have to hide it. But we know we have so many challenges ahead. You know, the Trump administration is not the Obama administration. I think we all understand that. They are hostile rather than overtly leading on these issues. We also see the challenge back in Orlando. We are hitting the 1-year mark this Monday for the Pulse nightclub tragedy. where 49 Orlandoans, many Latinx, many of our LGBT Hispanic community passed, many of whom I represent. And so we see violence is still a big issue. We also see challenges with the Trump administration pulling back the guidelines for transgender youth that we have in schools. And then going forward, we have a patchwork of protections in areas that have no protections that I know Marty's going to go over at length today. But I want to talk about what you can do, which is to act. There are so many ways that you can make a difference. From your local school board, which is where we're working to establish a transgender protection policy against bullying, access to mental health services, and so many other things, because we're dealing with a 30-40% suicide rate among this population, which is far above any other population that we have of youth in the United States. You can talk to your city or county commission. You know, representing Orange and Osceola County, which is in the east and southern part of Orlando, very progressive areas. So we are establishing all these different rights that need to be protected. But in Polk County, where I represent, there's nothing like that. And so we had a major victory when some of our LGBT rights activists got at least a pride resolution through the county commission. But that's a start to go through to eventually get housing, public accommodation, so many of these other things. And then you have on the state level, which is where we have some of the most insidious discrimination. You saw in North Carolina what happened, and you go to a lot of the states that were painted red over this last election. We are not fighting to advocate for rights, we're fighting to stop terrible anti-LGBTQ bills from being passed. And so state legislators are so critical to make sure not only that we play defense, but we play offense with the battleground issues. Housing, employment, voting, public accommodations, many things that Marty's going to go over. And then there's the federal level, which I'm honored to represent Orlando metropolitan area in. We have the Equality Act, which is the civil rights legislation of our generation, protecting both the LGBTQ community and women who don't appear in a lot of these civil rights statutes. And so where's the challenge in Congress? We have, I think, every Democrat, or the vast majority of Democrats, signed on, 2 Republicans so far. And so one of the things that you can do as you're here is there's a lot of states in the Northeast, particularly in the West Coast, in the Midwest, where you'll have Republican members say that they are for LGBTQ rights, but then they won't put their name on a piece of legislation that can change the lives of so many people living in states and in counties that don't have these protections. That is the front lines. So what can you do? You can call your member of Congress. You can ask to meet with them. You may even meet with staff, but if more and more people do that, they're going to feel the heat. You can email and write letters, but don't use the chain emails. Write an individual letter that talks about your situation, even if it's only a paragraph or 2. You could write op-eds. You could join rallies. You could make sure to protest at different offices, particularly folks who are the worst enemies of us. There are so many other things that you could do that you're going to hear about today, but I want to leave you with this. If you act, it will matter. It's not going to be once, it's not going to be twice, it's got to be a hurricane of action against so many folks who are standing in the way of equality throughout this nation. So don't give up, you keep on fighting. We've had so many successes, but there's so much more to go that you're going to hear about today, and HRC is leading the charge. And I want to thank you all for the art exhibit you all put on last night in honor of the Pulse nightclub victims. It means so much to see those names up here, and know that on the 12th we'll be not only in the district, but up here on the House floor to recognize all the victims that we lost. So thank you for fighting. Thank you for your dedication to the LGBTQ community. And as an ally, we'll be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Soto. Congressman Soto was gracious enough with his time. He actually is literally getting on a plane in a few minutes to go back to Orlando, where they are getting ready for the commemoration events taking place before the 1-year anniversary, which is on Monday. So thank you, Congressman Soto, again for joining us. Chad will also be on to Orlando tomorrow. Thank you so much. And we have many allies working with us, of course, and later on in the training, you'll be hearing from one of our partner organizations, the National Council of La Raza. We'll be presenting as well as Clarissa. Say a little hello to Clarissa. Just wave hello. You'll be seeing from her later. So, Clarissa, thank you so much for your support partnership. We'll hear from you in a little while. Before we get started and go through the agenda, I do want to acknowledge the HRC staff that are here in the room. They put a lot of energy and time into putting this presentation together for all of you today. So if I can ask the HRC staff to stand up, and then if you could please introduce yourselves, tell us your name, your preferred pronouns, and where your home base is and title as well. So, okay.
Hey, I'm Cascaz. I live here in Washington, D.C. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I work, I'm a senior marketing strategist at HRC. I work on a lot of digital stuff.
Hi everybody, my name is Lindsay Clark. I'm a senior regional field organizer for HRC. I use pronouns they, them, their, and I'm from Cleveland, so I was up late last night watching a game, so go Cavs.
Hi everyone, my name's Chris. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm a regional field organizer for Team West, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
Where are you based, Chris?
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Good morning, I'm Ben Needham. I'm Director of Partner One America. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm based here in DC.
Good morning, my name is Kip Collin. I'm in the Communities and Volunteers Relations. My pronouns are he, him, his, based in DC.
My name is Jeremy Pittman. I'm based here in Washington, D.C. I help manage our field organizing team, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
Hello, I'm Eddie Velasquez. I'm the field coordinator here at HRC, and I go by he, him, his pronouns.
Great, thank you. It's a really great team. Honored to work with them as we go forward. So thank you, team, for putting this together. And now I just want to get a sense of where you all are from the room. I know a lot of you are from this area, but if we could have a show of hands, who's actually from DC? Okay. Who's from Maryland? Great, I'm from Maryland too. Who's from Virginia? Great. Who's from somewhere else on the East Coast? Okay. Anyone from the West Coast? No one from the West Coast. Too far, right? Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for being here. Now let's go through our wonderful.
What about the big middle?
What about the South? Yes, that's a good question. What about the South? How about folks in the South stand up? Okay. Thank you for that. Calling me out. Awesome. Okay, so let's go through our agenda. So we already did our welcome introductions. We're going to go over the LGBTQ political landscape. We're going to talk about how you can best engage with elected officials like members of Congress and others. We'll talk about how the best way to engage in coalition building and how you can get involved in resistance events all across the country. We'll also talk about the best and most strategic ways to take action online. The good ways, the not so great ways, how you can be more effective online, and then we'll end it with our Q&A section. So let's talk about the LGBT political landscape. Chad made reference to this when he spoke, but we have to remember that when we celebrate Pride, June is LGBT Pride and History Month, we have to remember that the reason why we march, the reason why we do that all across the country and across the world is because of what happened in places like Stonewall, where in 1969, in June of 1969, LGBT people had enough and fought back against police oppression. They said enough is enough, and in June of 1969 fought back against the police, caused what we now call the Stonewall riots, and then the next year people marched publicly and openly as a community in New York City, and that was the first LGBT Pride March, and since 1970, all across this country, and indeed all across the world, we march, we sometimes dance, but we have to remember it's because of the resistance, because we resist, because we still are discriminated against in your state, all across this country, and indeed across the world. And we have to remember that, remember those who fought back originally. So, where are we now? You all know that we have made significant progress all across the country, but especially in the issue of marriage equality. To think about, in 2004, May 17, 2004, Massachusetts became the first state in our country that allowed same-sex couples to legally marry. Is there anyone here from Massachusetts? Okay, Jeremy Pittman and I were in Massachusetts on this day, and to think that it was only a few years ago, 13 years ago, when the first marriages took place in the first state, and today, 2017, since in 2015, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of marriage equality, it was only 11 years later where then all of a sudden we then had marriage equality all across this country. That was 11 years, from 2004 to 2015. Unprecedented progress. No other civil rights movement has seen such progress in such a short amount of time. And look at the percentage of the American public who supported marriage equality. Starting in 1996, when they started polling on marriage equality, only 27% support. In 2004, when marriage equality happened in our first state in our country, only 42% support and 55% opposed. Fast forward to 2015, almost total opposite. Now 60% support and 35% opposing. Again, this is unprecedented public support and changing of public attitudes. And a lot has gone into that. A lot of work from LGBT organizations all across the country, but it's also been the increased visibility of LGBT people. And that's not to be underestimated. People getting involved, showing up, presenting themselves as who they are. And the American public have seen that, and clearly on the issue of marriage equality, the American public has responded. Phenomenal, phenomenal success in a very short amount of time, relatively speaking. However, as Chad also mentioned, our progress is not complete. And there are a patchwork of laws all across this country regarding LGBT community issues. These are some of the maps on employment and housing and public accommodation and hate crimes. Looking at this employment map just in and of itself, the dark purple states are where there are full protections based on sexual orientation and gender identity in employment. More than half the country does not have protections. So this means that in every state of the country today, in more than half the states across the country today, you can be married on Sunday legally. You can go to work on Monday. You can be fired from your job. Then you can go home and be evicted from your apartment simply for posting your marriage photos on your Facebook page. That is reality today in more than half the states in this country. And that is why we have a lot more work to do. Not only in these states, we also have seen fighting, as we're trying to progress in the states to try to make sure we fill in those maps with more states in providing protections, we have seen a huge backlash, especially since 2015's marriage decision. These states colored in here, these yellow states, these are where state legislatures are putting forward anti-LGBT pieces of legislation. Last year, over 200 pieces of legislation filed in over 30 states. This year, 135 anti-LGBT bills have been introduced in state legislatures across the country, those there. These are basically grouped in three types of anti-LGBT legislation. The first type is anti-transgender bills, all different types of anti-transgender bills. The second type is municipal preemptions. And what those are is the state legislature decides that cities cannot protect people if they want to. And so they pass a municipal preemption ban, meaning that no city in that state could offer any protections to anybody. So these municipal preemption bans are coming up in several states across the country. And the third type of legislation are these religious refusal bills, where the state legislature, out of the kindness of their heart, decide because of your religious belief or your sincerely held religious belief, you can discriminate as your religion dictates to you. And quite often, it's the LGBT community that is targeted. So these are the types of legislation that we are fighting against across the country. And then, as I mentioned, the transgender community in particular is significantly impacted. This is where there's anti-transgender legislation this year. Those blue states are where we may be having ballot questions on transgender discrimination. We already will have in Massachusetts for sure next November a ballot question on whether or not they support the discrimination against transgender Massachusetts residents. That will be on the ballot next November, and there are potential ballots in Montana and Anchorage, Alaska as well. And then if that's not bad enough legislatively, we know that there's increased violence against transgender Americans as well. And just in 2017, at least 10 trans women of color have been reportedly murdered in our country. And so we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we do what we can to make sure that trans lives matter. And this is our job. Okay. And then, if that's not enough, there's President Trump. Now, we cannot underestimate how serious this threat to us, to our community is. And as I talked about before, think about how you felt in 2015 when the Supreme Court ruled for marriage. Think about the joy in your heart you felt. Think about how utterly exciting that was for you, that we have made it, we are equal. Remember that moment. I still get goosebumps thinking about that exact moment where we were standing on the front of on the steps of the Supreme Court when that decision came down. Everyone screaming and crying with joy at that exact moment. And we thought, we have made it. And indeed, many people across the country, not just the LGBT Americans, but everybody else said, the gays got it. The LGBT, they've got everything now. What else is there to do? The Obama administration, look at all of the achievements that President Obama gave to us. And what we fought so hard for, he and his administration proved to us and gave to us. Well, if there was ever any doubt that we have more work to do, that election last November proved to us on election night, think about how you felt. Whatever time it was when you realized it was 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, when all of a sudden you got that pit in your stomach, and you said, my God, what is going to happen? And here we are only 200 days later. And it just took days. We're on the website. You typed in LGBT on the White House website. Sorry, no results. Wiped clean from the White House website. All the achievements of the Obama administration, everything, wiped from all the websites in the federal government. That is what we have to fight against. That is what we have to resist against. And that is what we are going to do. And it's not just the president. As Chad mentioned, his appointments, Jeff Sessions, Tom Price, Rick Perry, these people are absolutely horrible, going into the bowels of this administration and finding ways to undo everything and erase this community. And so we have a lot of work to do to fight back against Donald Trump and this administration. And so what are we going to do about that? And that is what we're going to discuss today. So, Lindsay, come on up here. Tell us how we are going to resist.
Thank you, Marty. Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Lindsay Clark, and I'm a senior regional field organizer for HRC. Now, anytime there are slides that are mostly black and red, I feel like I need a deep breath afterwards. So if everybody could just take one, and just breathe it all out, shake it all out, and let's figure out what we're going to do with this. You all are in this room today because you know that when you are feeling the feelings that you're feeling now, you need to act. You need to do things to make it better. And that's what we're here to do today. We're here to unite, to resist, and to enlist. And today's training is really for folks who are new to the movement, bringing you into the resistance, but it's also for our seasoned veterans, refreshing your skills, making sure that you know how to move forward most effectively. And that's what we're hoping to get accomplished today. So first, well, where do we start? So the first thing that you can do is work at the federal level. And for us, that's the Equality Act. How many folks in here have heard of the Equality Act before? Raise your hands. Oh, man. Okay, great. So the Equality Act is landmark legislation that would update civil rights law to include sexual orientation and gender identity in protected classes. This isn't a new format. This is just adding to what we already have that's great. And when we get this passed, LGBTQ people will be protected from discrimination on the basis of employment, housing, public spaces, and so much more. This is really the cornerstone of our work to get full equality for everyone, everywhere. So the Equality Act will continue to be a cornerstone of the work that we do, and there's a lot that you can do in your communities to fight for the Equality Act. Beyond what we're doing at the federal level, we also can work to increase and better policies at the state level. How many folks in here have heard of the State Equality Index? A few. Oh, good. Okay, good. Just slow to respond. I understand. Basketball. So the State Equality Index is a tool that HRC has put together that helps you to see what laws already exist in your state and what ways you can work to make those things better. So checking in on the State Equality Index, looking to see what the roadmap is for you moving forward in your pro-equality work is a really good place to start. The other things that you need to do are to know who the key players are in your states. So how many folks already know who your state legislators are? Okay, good. And how many folks know who the state equality organization in your state is? Good, okay, great. So as we move forward in this training, we're going to talk a little bit about how to engage your elected officials effectively, and we're also going to talk about building better coalitions. So that information is going to be a really important base for those conversations and for moving some of that state work forward. We talked a little bit about all the negative bills that happened this year, but we haven't yet celebrated that there were actually nearly a dozen pro-equality bills that were passed this year, including bans for conversion therapy in Connecticut, New Mexico, and Nevada. And that's great. And it's due to the work of folks like you who saw that there was a gap in your state protections, and you fought to close that gap. So keep doing that good work. In addition to the state stuff that we just talked about, we can also do work a lot closer to home. So how many folks have heard of the Municipal Equality Index, the MEI? Fewer, but still good, you're still with me. So the Municipal Equality Index rates cities, towns, and counties on their policies and their inclusion. And that's a great resource for you if your city is in the MEI, and it's a great resource if they're not. If your city isn't yet rated by the MEI, you can still take the MEI to your mayors, to your city and council representatives, and show them the path to move your city forward. The MEI currently rates 506 cities. That includes most of the largest cities in each state, the capitals, and some smaller university towns as well. And how many folks in here have ever had a conversation with your city council member before? Oh, good. You guys are great. This is better than expected. Very good, guys. So your city council representatives are some of the most accessible legislators to you. They're the people that you can absolutely find, reach out to, and get to know. These folks work and live where you work and live. Sometimes they shop, eat, or worship in the same places that you do. So it's really important that you leverage those relationships, build those relationships, and make sure that you're working at all levels to improve equality policies for you and the folks that you love. And then in addition to all of the work that we just discussed at all levels, if we can't change the hearts and minds of enough folks who are already our legislators, then we just change our legislators. And that also is very, very important work. How many folks in here have done elections work before? Raise your hands. Oh, good. Okay, great. So elections work is crucial. It is so important to the work that we do. And coming off of an election year, I'm sure that you know that. But we're coming up on another. In 2018, there are a lot of races up, including a battle for Senate control. As you can see here, the darker colored seats are the seats that will remain in place, and the light colored seats are the seats that are open. Now, I should say that HRC is a nonpartisan organization, and we're just fighting for pro-equality majorities. But the reason that I want to talk about this is because you can see there are a lot of states up for grabs, a lot of seats up for grabs, a third of the Senate seats, and most of those are blue. So 2018 is going to be crucial for maintaining our pro-equality legislators and trying to fight to get more. In addition to the situation in the Senate, we also have the House of Representatives, as you can see here, and the full House is going to be up for election in 2018. So all of these seats will be open. And as it says here, we need 218 for a majority. I believe the number is 24 that we would need to flip the House. So it's a crucial year. And it might feel like it's far away, right? We just did an election, let us breathe, but 2018 is right around the corner. It's so important that you commit to this work now and that you start doing everything that you can to support pro-equality candidates and to put yourself in a position to do that elections work when it rolls around. So what's at stake in 2018? A lot, as I said. So we've got a third of the seats in the U.S. Senate that are coming up. That includes our buddy Tammy Baldwin, who is our only openly LGBTQ U.S. Senator. Her race will be in 2018. All of the House of Representatives will be up. We'll have 36 governor's races and thousands of state legislative seats across the country. So 2018 is a huge year. It's not an off year. It is a very large year for us at the ballot. And there are a lot of ways that you can help. So doing get out the vote work, as I'm sure many of you did this last election, will be equally as important in 2018. Canvassing, knocking on doors, phone banking, making sure that folks are registered, they know where to vote, and that all of our HRC members are activated, using social media and having conversations in your personal life, talking to your friends, talking to your family, making sure that they understand why 2018 is a crucial election for the LGBT community and for you as LGBTQ people and allies. So let's talk a little bit about how we can most effectively engage our elected officials. So just again, show me a show of hands. How many folks have talked to an elected official one-on-one before? Oh, great. Okay, cool. So when we're engaging with our elected officials, it's important to understand that elected officials are very, very important to your day-to-day life at all levels. So all of the levels of representatives that we just talked about are crucial to your day-to-day life. That includes your city and county folks, your mayor, your city councilors, your state folks, your governor, your state legislators, and then the federal level, your president, your secretaries, and your members of Congress. So it's really important that at all levels you understand that these people make big decisions that affect your life, and they need to be hearing from you about those decisions that they have to make. That includes when you agree with folks. So you don't just have to call and yell at folks when you disagree. You should also call and thank people who are with us. Urge others to join us, for sure, but don't forget to thank our supporters and encourage them to do more to help us move equality forward. And there are lots of different ways that you can do this. There are lots of different methods of engagement that we use in our work. Just a few of them: emails, phone calls, handwritten letters or cards. Handwritten letters are particularly effective for that personal touch, and I think very few of us do it, so don't forget that as a way to contact your legislators. Social media is great. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. And then public meetings, so showing up to a public hearing, asking questions of your legislators. That gets your message out both to your legislator but also to the folks in the room. So that can be a great way to talk to folks. Intercepts at local events. If you can't set up a meeting with your legislators, figure out where they're going for town halls. Figure out where you can find them and chat with them and just engage with them for 30 seconds to a minute. And then in-person meetings. In-person meetings are one of our favorite ways to contact legislators. We host lobby days every year, and setting up those actual meetings to sit down face-to-face with your legislator or their staff is really an immeasurable opportunity to get your message across. So those are just some of the ways that we contact folks, and you can really divide those two contact methods into two bowls, fish bowls in this case. So we've got our quantity contacts, and then we have our quality contacts. And they're both equally important. So on the quantity side, we've got things like emails, phone calls, postcards, social media. These are the ways that we connect with our legislators that maybe get counted, but don't necessarily reach to a lower level. And that can be very important. I've had folks who get really frustrated that they're making phone calls to legislators and the legislators are tallying those phone calls, but that's so important. It's a really important contact method. When we were working to pass ENDA, when Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski was talking about her support for ENDA, she said, "When I was home over the break, I think it was 1,174 postcards were delivered to my office from Alaskans from around the state in support of ENDA." And those postcards got to her desk because of the work of people like you to collect those quantity contacts and deliver them to the folks who needed to hear them. And then on the other side, we have quality contacts. So these are things like those one-on-one meetings that we were talking about, whether that's a pre-scheduled meeting or an intercept. These are contacts made by key messengers that have a lasting impact on your legislators. This is where you can really dive deeper with your legislators, really get into your story. A really good example of this, Senator Carl Levin, when he was talking about his support for the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, said, "I'm here because of Staff Sergeant Eric Alba, the first ground unit casualty in the war in Iraq. The first casualty in the war in Iraq was a gay soldier." So when you find those key messengers and you put them in front of the people who really need to hear their stories, even if it's just one person, that one person could absolutely tip the scale. So in most of the work that we do, we balance quantity and quality contacts, and you should think about it the same way when you're making your plan for how to move forward with your legislators. And next up, I'm going to kick it over to Kip, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about how to tell your story and how to be effective with those legislators.
Thanks. So how do you think about what to say? I think we're going to have you use these 4 connecting points. So there's an introduction, there's a common ground statement, your story, and the ask. The most important thing that you can do is to make a connection. And with that connection is specifically state that you're a constituent. So where are you from? I'm from Maryland, I'm from Orlando. You want to make sure that you do that because that kind of forms a kind of common ground and a specific moment. Start out positive. So we want to be positive with this message, and I'm sure that you may have some people that you can think of a positive message already. Some of us, we may have to search for a positive moment with some of our legislators. So find out what that positive moment is. So, thank you for supporting our local baseball team. Thank you for supporting the symphony. Thank you for our infrastructure, that kind of thing. Start out with the positive. And the most important part that you have that no one else has is your story. Leave the specifics of the policy to the lobbyist, but what you have is your story. And make sure that you use that and be specific with that. So how does this affect you, or how does it affect your loved ones? The next part, and the most important part too, is you do not want to leave this engagement without the ask. So that ask is going to be a specific yes or no question. For example, will you co-sponsor the Equality Act? There's a worksheet in your packet. We don't have time to actually go through this today step by step, but it is an outline for you, and I encourage you to make sure that you look at that worksheet, that you fill it out, because it will make things easier for you. How many people have already done this? You've gone to lobby day, you've done the ask. Woohoo, great, all right. Once you do it a couple times, it's pretty easy. So, from this basic outline that you have, there are a few steps that you want to kind of make sure that you look at to kind of tell your story and to hone in on it. So duration. So what is going to be the time of your message, and how long do you have that message to give? What is the audience that you're going to do? What is the format? Is it going to be a written message? Is it going to be a prepared message? What is the audience going to look like? For example, if you're going to be going to a planned meeting, you may have 30 to 60 minutes, or if you're an intercept, which means that you're kind of going to an event, you may have 30 to 60 seconds. It's like an elevator pitch. So you've got to be ready to go on that message. Other key things that you want to figure out are, is it going to be spoken versus written communication? And is it going to be in person versus remote communication? Things like body language or tone, the volume, can convey a lot in a message. So you want to make sure that you are capturing that, especially if you are in remote or doing written communication. You also want to consider, is this going to be one-way or two-way communication? So the two-way conversation can be great for making your message being heard, but you also want to make sure that you stay on message and you stay on topic. So when you're doing that, the in-person communication, make sure you stay on message. And last, you want to consider the audience that you are going to use to deliver the communication. So methods like emails and phone calls, you probably will get in touch with a legislator, but then also looking at the other types of communication, you may want to use that in a different method. Do not discount staff. Staff are like gatekeepers for you. So sometimes they can be more effective or even more effective than speaking to a legislator because they communicate with them daily. So the other thing that you want to do is finding other stories to show your message. One of the things that this does is it multiplies and diversifies your message, and you're able to kind of find a common ground on a bigger level. So you want to look for people who have compelling stories to share, and you also want to look for people who represent others or speak with authority. So in the people who have compelling stories for us, that is sharing our stories of discrimination, also sharing stories that parents may have of the fear that their kids are going to experience discrimination, people of faith who oppose religious-based discrimination, and then also people of authority, clergy, corporate leaders, small business owners, or healthcare professionals. People who have kind of like influence in your community, those are the individuals that you could use in that method. So next up, we are going to put all of this into motion, and we're going to hear from Maddie. She's going to be telling her story about how this has impacted her. And as we're pulling that up, remember we've got 4 kind of key steps to that. The introduction, the common ground.
My name is Madeline Goss, and I'm transgender. I'm a mother and a partner, and I'm a software engineer here in Research Triangle Park. I grew up in Hickory, North Carolina, and I loved Hickory. But I was bullied and tortured mercilessly there. And where did it happen? It happened in the men's room. This place is a place of danger for me. And what this bill would do is send me back there. I left Hickory for places that are safe, like Charlotte and Raleigh. I now live in Raleigh, and I am happy there. I'm happy with my partner, and I'm happy with my 9-year-old daughter, Sophia. I can't use the men's room. I won't go back to the men's room. It is unsafe for me there. People like me die there every day. Not the least to say, it freaks people out when I go to the men's room. Would you want to go to the men's room with me? I don't think so. The point is this. These LGBT protections are common sense protections. They make places like Raleigh and Charlotte safe and welcome for people like me. They're not new, they're not unique, and they're not radical. They've already been passed in over 200 cities in the United States. People aren't getting thrown in jail, people aren't getting raped and murdered. People are just going to the bathroom. That's all I'm asking is a safe place for me and people like me to go to the bathroom. Please, vote no on this bill.
So what do you think about Maddie's story? This is where you guys come in. Hey, we can all talk.
Check. Anybody want to respond?
That was very personalized. She gave an account of how it affects her personally and other people like her.
Did you guys all hear that? Okay. Great points. So where does Maddie live? And specifically, where is that at? She said it like 4 times. Hickory, 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 Hickory. You heard that all the time. I live in Hickory. I work in Hickory. This is where I'm at in Hickory. That's that constituent message, so that you drive home that there's a commonality there. And she also said, I love. Every time it wasn't just Hickory, it was, I love Hickory. I love Hickory because I work there. That's a key point too as well. What are some other things that you noticed? Yes?
She put emotion into it?
Yes, she put emotion into it. She's very empathetic. She was very passionate about the cause. And that was one of the other key things that was great. And as you notice, she didn't give specifics about what? The legislator. She didn't give specifics about that. She was these policies, these anti-LGBTQ policies. So you don't have to know the policies, the specifics about that. Leave that to the lobbyists, etc. You tell your story in a compassionate and compelling way. That is going to be more than anything that you could ever do, is kind of relating to that constituent and relating to that lawmaker, that you have a compelling story. So, anything else that you guys noticed? Yes?
I like that she said she just wanted to have a safe place to go to the bathroom, so that everybody can have compassion to that. She just wants to go to the bathroom.
Exactly.
So that saying safe place, that means she doesn't want to be in danger, and I think that really hits home.
That's a commonality piece too. Something else that she did is she used humor in that same kind of comment. So don't underestimate the power of humor when you can use it, and also to make someone smile or laugh. That's also a commonality too as well. So, all right, there you go. That's a perfect example. And it was like, what, 2 minutes? We all can do that. Can we all do that in 2 minutes? Perfect. All right, here we go. I'm gonna hand it off.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris. Once again, I'm a regional field organizer for Team West, so the western part of the United States. Today, we are going to be talking about engaging in coalition building and resistance activities. As you know, the worst happened. Donald Trump won the election, which means it's time for us to fight back. And so today I'm going to talk to you briefly about how we can go ahead and begin that work and making sure that we work with others to make our work more meaningful, more effective, and more efficient. So speaking about coalitions, these are a few of our coalition partners at the Human Rights Campaign. Coalitions build trust and consensus between people and organizations that have similar concerns within a community. Building a coalition on an issue elevates the urgency and advocacy that your group has. Making sure that you're all able to go ahead and come forward with a similar message, a similar story, or a similar action increases the number of participants within the coalition. And helps us achieve victory. So, this is the Human Rights Campaign in Washington, D.C., teaming up with Planned Parenthood here. And as another example, we have us in Planned Parenthood in North Dakota, helping them organize and launch events there. So, on that last slide, it said coalitions are a two-way street. What that means is that in order to talk about coalition building and in order to move forward within a coalition, it's not enough for you or your coalition just to go up to another group or an individual and say, hey, I have this action that I want to take place. I want this to happen right now. Come join me and do it. Instead, it's actually much better and much more encouraged for you or your organization to go forward with that group and say, hey, I'm here to support you first. I'm here to learn about what your activity is. And then go ahead and start building an authentic relationship for the future. If you're not able to go ahead and do that, then there's automatically a distrust issue, which means that your coalition won't go far, or when it does go far, is when the progress will be slow. So when we talk about finding coalitions, we want to go ahead and get engaged about issues that we care about. There are so many issues that we care about, especially as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer individuals here in the room. We also care about the Affordable Health Care Act. We care about so many different diverse topics, women's rights, immigration issues, everything. And so we have here a nice website. It's the indivisibleguide.com as well as resistancenearme.org. We work with a number of coalition partners in order to go ahead and make sure that we can go ahead and find something that suits us and that is something that we're passionate about. If it's not something that we're going to be passionate about, we end up losing interest within the coalition and then we take away from that coalition rather than put into that coalition. So honestly, the best way to go ahead and find out about coalitions is to go to Google and Facebook. Do a search, find an interest that you are passionate about, and to move forward from there. Remember, all these national organizations that you hear about, like the ACLU, Planned Parenthood, indivisible groups, they all have local chapters. So if you're interested about a national chapter, make sure to go ahead and take a look to see if they have a local chapter. As it was said earlier in this presentation, local impact is amazing. And local impact is probably as important as national impact. I would argue it's more because I come from the West. So when we go ahead and we show up for others, this is what we mean. We're talking about showing up. That means physically go into the same room, be there. And it means not just once, but multiple times over and over again. Be consistent about being engaged within the coalition work. It may be easier to go in with a group if you are intimidated about just engaging or just starting with this coalition group. Next, introduce yourself and share your story. Share your personal story because it builds trust with other members of the coalition. Respect differences. So in coalitions, people will have differences. People might differ on the work that they do. They might differ on how to do it. They might differ on what the work means to them. That's okay. That's actually a benefit. So you have to learn how to go ahead and move forward, respecting each other's differences, so that you can go ahead and achieve the maximization of your coalition. That includes additional skill sets. And then also go ahead and let let lead groups run the show. So if you're brand new to a coalition and you're not really sure of what to do, but there's someone there that already knows what's going on, go ahead and let them run the show for a bit. And then as your relations develop, move from observing to partaking within the coalition to finally leading the coalition with your coalition partners. So next, we're going to build our own coalition. So let's pretend that you looked online, you didn't see anything you liked, and you're like, you know what, I want to build my own coalition. I want to build something that speaks to me. So the first thing is going ahead and envisioning. Second, go ahead and identify the goals. So what are the goals of your coalition? What are you going to do? Set the activities. What does success look like? If you can't envision what that is, then you don't have a goal or a metric to achieve. Then determine who's at the table and who's not at the table, or who should be at the table. I walked into a number of meetings where they're talking about immigration issues, and I'm suddenly the only brown person there. We have a problem there. So that's something that we should go ahead and make sure you notice, and make sure that you don't fall into a trap. Yes, we're passionate, but make sure that we are working together. Then determine the levels of relationships. Doing this means that you're able to go ahead and determine what other coalition partners can bring to the table and what is missing from the table. Also, it means that you can go ahead and make a future ask about something down the road. For instance, maybe you show up at this rally event, maybe you go ahead and talk to this representative or this senator, and maybe you move forward on this key issue when the other group doesn't have capacity to do so. And also, articulate your shared purpose and values. So it's really important in coalition work to remember that we all have good intentions moving forward. For those that don't remember that, it can seem kind of frustrating moving forward. So making sure that you share what your vision is, making sure that you have a shared purpose before you start moving forward is important, because if you make it to the end goal and you have a different idea about what that actually is, you're going to be disappointed. And we want to make sure that you're in this work for the long term, not just during the Trump presidency, but after. As you saw, we have a long way to go, and we can't give up anytime soon. So next, we're going to go ahead and talk about investing and inviting. So relationship over task. How many people will get that phone call from that one person where they don't even bother to say hello, how are you doing? They just say, I need you to do this, this, and this. Most commonly happening in the workplace environment. So this is what it's like working in a coalition. If you and your coalition partner go ahead and ask another coalition partner just to do something without so much as actually getting to know them, without actually taking time to check in with them on where they're at, how they're doing, how you can help them, then it's not an exchange. It is not building an authentic relationship that you need to move forward. Be inclusive and be participatory. So this means you want to go ahead and include everybody who would be part of a coalition. Sometimes that means sitting down with other members of your coalition group and actually finding out who they are. Other times it means asking people, hey, is this something that you want to get involved with? I know for me personally, making the ask is the most important thing ever. There are so many times that I wouldn't have done something unless I was asked to do it. And finally, allow others to hold space. What this means is when you're working on something, allow people to take the lead, but not only that, value it. Value their work and move that work forward. Let every group within the coalition have that space where they can go ahead and hold it, and that work can be valued, recognized, and it can be moved forward and acted upon. So next we're going to have our representative from the NCLR, the National Coalition of La Raza, come up to talk to you about working within a coalition.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for for the opportunity to be with you this morning. For many of us who work at the national level, it is always exciting when we have the folks in our networks, the folks that work on the issues that we work on at the federal level, to be in community and to be connected, what really moves change and what inspires change. And so it really is a privilege for me to have a chance to be with you today. I know you're hearing about a lot of actions you can take, but I feel like I'm already in the room of the enlisted love warriors. And again, I'm incredibly grateful for that opportunity. The National Council of La Raza is the largest Latino civil rights and advocacy organization, and we're proud to join in celebrating Pride. This is not a path that we've started today. Our collaboration with HRC and the LGBTQ community has been in place for a long time, and I think that this is a moment to just recommit and recharge our batteries because we have a long fight ahead. And as you've heard, this fight is not something that is new. Yes, there has been progress, but that progress is the result of people like you who continue to push every day. Politicians and legislators seldom lead the charge of change. They most often respond to the forces of change that are coming from our communities and from people like you in this room. And so for those who dare to be champions on these issues, your voices and your actions help clear the path for them to do what needs to be done, but frankly, to really move those who would want to bury their head in the sand or wait in the sidelines until things are easy. And we need people who are willing to move forward when things are not easy in particular. The LGBTQ community and the Latino community come in all shapes, sizes, religions, affiliations, you name it. And the thing is, that is just like America. And one of the interesting things is that even though change is part of the American DNA, we have seen America go through these episodes of rejection and backlash against so many groups every time that change is afoot and being felt. But because our communities know what it's like to be persecuted, we also know what it's like to stand up to protect and defend each other when we need to. And we know what it's like to have to fight to make sure that America indeed becomes a more perfect union and one that matches its reality with its ideals. And that's why this moment of celebration is an opportunity to raise the flag that so many carried before us so that we could be here today, and so that we continue to raise that flag of love and take it broadly to the rest of our fellow Americans who I think many politicians are trying to make sure are trapped by fear. Because when we are afraid, we tend to do things that we regret. Right now, that fear is, politicians are trying to make that fear take hold by attacking the most vulnerable in our communities. Whether it's transgender people, whether it is undocumented immigrants. But the reality is that at the end of the day, this is really not about that. You know, immigration, religion or terrorism or crime, and now even bathrooms. These are just a few of the favorite things that politicians who are afraid of that unity will lead to accountability are trying to distract us with and trying to keep us divided. And that is why this moment is so important for us to continue to stand together and to make sure that we hold accountable those who are frankly undermining what is one of the biggest national assets that we have as a country. And that is the strength of our diversity. And the great news is that a majority of Americans actually believe that our diversity indeed is a strength. And it's a strength that we are not fully tapping, right? But imagine this. So imagine that child in the classroom who hears every single day, even from teachers, sometimes even at home, that they're not going to amount to anything. That they're dumb, that they're not worthy, you name it, right? Most often than not, there are going to be kids who are exposed to that, who are going to push ahead and they're going to make it. But most kids who are subjected to that are going to end up believing that, and that it's going to affect what they do in their lives. Imagine America is that child. And our fellow Americans are hearing every single day that the way America is changing is bad, that they need to be afraid of that change. That's what we need to fight against, because we know that's not true, and at a deep level, our fellow Americans also know that that is not true. But what they continue to hear relentlessly, day in and day out, is those stories. Not the stories of how people are coming together to solve problems in their communities. And I know it sounds touchy-feely, but we need to make sure that we're elevating those stories that challenge the notion that the future of our changing America is a future of doom and gloom, because it isn't. And not only it isn't, we've been in this moment before, where people were afraid of change and try to turn us against each other. So we know, people in our communities know that love conquers hate, but we also know that love is not a passive act. We know that it needs to be tended to, and we need to struggle to make sure that it flourishes. And that's why I think this room is full of love warriors that are going to take that message forward. And that we're going to hold people accountable, politicians and others who seek to undermine one of our greatest national assets, the strength of our diversity. And we are also going to hold accountable the people that stand in the sidelines. How many times have you talked to folks who say, I'm with you, but I can't really speak about this right now, or I need a watered down version of this or the other, or come to me later when. This is not a time to stand on the sidelines. So we need to make sure that our friends are truly friends, and we need to make sure that people who are seeking to divide our country are held to account. So what can you do? You've heard a number of things already, and I want to emphasize some of those things. But to me, I'm reminded that a lot of times people say, hey, if you want to develop a good habit, try to find a buddy to hold you accountable. So I'm happy that Latinos and the LGBTQ community can be each other's buddies in this process. And what I believe is the most important workout that the American community needs to take right now, and that's to exercise our rights. So as we look ahead, I think it's going to be important for all of us to know our rights. I know many of you who work closely with immigrant communities have heard about that, but that takes many shapes, right? We need to understand what our rights are in the realm of the public square and civil discourse, our rights to protest, our rights, our whistleblowers, the rights of immigrant communities as they interact with repressive deportation forces. And understanding those rights, it's also important for us to help other people exercise theirs. Another important thing is to help each other be present. One way to do it is volunteer with a local organization to help eligible immigrants become citizens. I try to go to a swearing-in ceremony at least once a year, and I can tell you that I cry every time. And I am reminded of the ideals that the nation stands for, and that we need to help the nation actually get to, right? In order to become a perfect union means we're a work in progress. We need to become voter registration ambassadors. In this past election, more than 40 million voting age Americans didn't vote. And that was a presidential election. Even less Americans vote in a midterm election. The thing is, many Americans are not even registered. And now with technology, you can actually carry in your phone an on-ramp to voter registration. There's a number of them out there. You can go to becomeavoter.org, you can download an app, and every time you run into a friend who's not registered, you can just pass them the phone. And then to encourage each other to show up on every election. Elections are kind of lonely sometimes, but I think if we make it more like a community and a buddy activity, particularly if you have to stand in those now longer and longer lines, we can change that process. And we need to build safe spaces, whether it is for the LGBTQ community and particularly the transgender community, for undocumented immigrants. There's a number of tools that you can access, and I'm sure that HRC can make available about working with your school district and cities to pass resolutions to create safe spaces for our communities. And lastly, as you heard, is to hold politicians accountable. Phone calls do matter, contact does matter, we're seeing that. And it needs to be constant, and it needs to be relentless. And it needs to be at the federal level, but it also be at the state level, and you can have a great impact there. And one of the perfect examples is Texas. You saw the state map before. Texas is one place that right now it's leading the charge, like North Carolina has been, on legislating hate and actually making laws that repress our communities, whether it's racial profiling laws or the special session they're having to pass bathroom legislation. And last but not least, I think one of the most important things to remember is the importance of our stories. You've heard that before, and I think that, again, as America continues to hear every single day how everything is going downhill, we need to remind people that's not the case. And you know that is there. That muscle is there. You're going to hear next about ways to use social media to amplify messages. And building an accurate story of us, of who we are as a country. One that constantly has to strive, but nevertheless has high ideals. And how the work that we do helps us do that. And examples of people coming together in their communities to solve problems are incredibly important. They tell me, they tell you ways in which this actually is real and can be done in the face of an environment that makes it seem so overwhelming that whatever one of us can do alone may feel like it's not going to make that much of a difference. So those stories are important, and each one of you has that, even today. The journey you took to get here today, and why, and with whom, and for what. It's a perfect way to tell that story and to give people who are feeling like things are too dark and too hard a place to go, a place to stand, and an understanding that the America we're fighting for is one where everybody has a place. And unless every one of us has a place, everybody else's place is threatened at some point. So with that, again, remember, know your rights and help others exercise theirs. Help eligible immigrants become citizens. Help citizens become voters. Hold politicians accountable and help tell the story of the real America, one that ignites problem solving and shows that unity is real. Because people out there are afraid of the power of unity. So in this summer of action, we look forward to continue working with HRC and all of you at the federal level, at the state level, in the voting booth, in the community center. Because we know that while America may go through periods of struggle with its own self, it eventually, because of people who stick to it, like you all, emerges stronger. And that gives me force, gives me strength to keep going. So in partnership, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you here in struggle, in the streets, and in the voting booth. Thank you.
Clarissa from National Council La Raza. marketing team. I'm a senior marketing strategist, and I do a lot with mobilizing our community online, overlaying traditional marketing objectives, non-traditional marketing objectives, the awesome work of our field team, and the amazing work that I know that you're going to do after this training. So y'all are beautiful. Don't tell me you don't like a good selfie, because I know. So we've got two mantras that we work under. The first one is to never ever underestimate the power of your voice to affect change. And the second is teamwork makes the dream work. We know that when we speak together with a unified message that we're a lot stronger. So we had, in 2016, we really flexed our political muscle with our turnout agenda. We had a really powerful operation where people in the field were going out, they were taking pictures of themselves at the voting booth, they were organizing their friends to make calls, and recently we've been doing a lot, obviously, within the resistance, and again, doing a lot of peer-to-peer engagement. This picture right here is of a young kid named Andy, and after the Trump administration rescinded guidance protecting transgender students, we had a social campaign where kids like Andy took to the interwebs and they spoke out, their parents spoke out, their teachers spoke out, and I think we really made a difference. So the big thing is staying informed. Fake news, watch out for it, don't do it. Because we've got a lot of other news and resources at HRC's blogs that are verified and they're thoughtful, they're based on the experts that we have within our organization. And we really try to focus on creating actionable and compelling content. We're always looking for the most innovative ways to, again, look at the work that you're doing, but also to help you guys organize online so that we're all more effective together. We have an incredible resource called AM Equality. It's our morning tip sheet. And it's got all the top lines for the day. We put it out every day of the week. So that is a really, really good way of staying engaged on the issues. And there's all kinds of stuff. There's online content, there's verified resources, and then the amplification of our coalition partners on the ground. Moving on. We really know that pictures are worth 1,000 words. You know that they say Pixar, it didn't happen. The most actionable and compelling content is video and pictures and boomerangs. But it's really ideal if you can do those things and tie it into an overlaying message. A selfie is great, but it's even better if you can do a selfie at a booth talking about the importance of getting out the vote because you really care about the issues and know that the resistance deeply impacts the lives of others and the people that you deeply care about. The other thing too is making sure that we're tagging. Again, I said that we operate under the mantra that teamwork makes the dream work, and that goes for making sure that we're saying the same things online so that we're amplifying our message in an effective way. The internet treats people well when they speak together. And that means amplifying the work of our coalition partners, but also making sure that we're using platform-specific best practices. Moving on, I think that it's important for us to tag where we can. One of the things that is really exciting as an evolution, Marty, when he kicked things off, talked about STONEWALL and how folks used to organize in landscapes that were very different from now. And I think that it's important in the moment that we live in now to use your own passions and your own talents to resist in any way that you can, and the internet provides a really easy way to speak out. And we frequently host tweet-ups and online activities that are so helpful if you engage in. It's important for us to hear why and what you're saying, and for others to hear it too. And we really want to engage with you. We don't want to, we're not just trying to propagate our content, we want your content. Our work is anchored by the views and perspectives and fight that you all have, and that's how we're effective online and also in the field. I think the last thing is just I'm sorry, I missed the part. Tagging our elected officials. So while you all are out and about, you seem to be all prepped now that we've gone through this beautiful training, but when you're out talking to your members, once you finish up your meeting, make sure that you go to tag them based off of, you know, the encounter that you had. So if you feel, you know, like it was a great meeting, you know, make sure that you're thanking Tammy Baldwin for her support of the Employment Non-Discrimination Act or whatever. I guess it's, oh, I'm sorry, or the Equality Act. Sorry, I'm like 7 years behind, sorry. But also, you know, where we need to hold people to the fire, make sure that we're, you know, doing that too. Again, we talked about Mark Green, and it was so amazing because we sent 17,000 correspondences to the White House, and you know, a couple of weeks, or I guess a couple of days later, we found out that he had stepped down from consideration. It was so obvious that it was from the support and fight of our community, so we were thrilled about that. So lastly, make sure that you stay connected with us online. These are all of our handles. Make sure that you write them down, grab your phones out, make sure that you just capture them pretty easy. But here you can find news, hashtags, tags, our online events, and also just sort of what's happening in the building. So that's all I've got. But really, if you ever have pictures or comments or feedbacks, we're always focused on trying to be innovative and creative and thoughtful. And again, that's really based on the work that you do. So my name is Kat, and I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you everyone here for all the presenters today. Thank you all so very much. And now we'll open up to all of you to hear any questions or comments you have about things. I know it was a lot of information. There's a lot of information in your packets, a lot of information trying to take it all in, or a lot of information also on the hrc.org website, and there's contact information in there as well. But any questions or comments from anybody in the audience? Yes?
Kat mentioned AM equality. Where is that? What is that? I'm not a Twitter person. I don't know what to do.
AM equality is great for somebody who's not a Twitter person. So it's really, really awesome, and it's from the hard work of our comms team. But basically, it's a tip sheet. I mean, so it's a tip sheet with all the articles and news of the day. It's got all the cool things that you should read on the internet. But you can go to hrc.org/blog. And we post it every day, so it'll pop right up, and then you can just subscribe there, and it comes right into your inbox. You can just cruise through it on your phone. It's really neat doc.
Thank you.
It really is a great resource if you really want to get updated every day on what's happening on LGBT issues, not just in your state, not just in the country, but all around the world. AM Equality is an amazing resource. We call everything from all around the world. Very simple resource. Excellent question. Another question or comment? I want to let you know. Oh, go ahead.
Back to that. Can I subscribe to that through Blog11 or any of the apps that I have on my phone?
I don't think so, but
Oh, okay.
I'll pass that on. It probably is a good idea.
Thanks.
So when you walk out this door here, you're going to get I attended training, this little ticket here. If you take this ticket and walk 1 block over to the HRC headquarters building, you will get a free gift. And you can take a selfie with the free gift over there. There are folks over there waiting for you and expecting you. There's also, if you haven't been to the HRC building in the past 24 hours, as the Congressman and Chad mentioned, there's a really wonderful art installation to commemorate the victims of the Pulse shooting, which was almost a year ago. So please go by and see that. So again, don't forget to please take this ticket outside with you to the building, and you'll get a free gift later today. Chip is right over there. Excuse me?
It's only 1 block away.
It's only 1 block away on 17th Street. Again, on behalf of everyone at the Human Rights Campaign, thank you so very, very much for being here today. Happy Pride. We're going to unite, we're going to resist, and we're going to live. Thank you very, very much.